Have you ever seen metal in the process of melting? It's wonderful. Industry is not just ugly. I've come from an industrial background. I grew up amongst sites like this. I worked as an engineer. I worked on a production line as a first job. Industry is a hard and demanding job. It's difficult work. There's a lot of savoir-faire required. It leads to all kinds of activities. It's forged me. Industry has made me what I am today. ITEN at the beginning was an industrial startup. I was on my own at home. I came up with 2 or 3 sketches or slides to try and imagine what I would be doing. Everybody said, Fabien, you'll never create this. You'll never manage to create an industrial project in France. You'll never get the necessary funding. You need to go to the United States. Some of my nearest and dearest even said, Fabien, stop this rubbish. Go and find a proper job. As you can see, I'm here today in front of you, and that's because my company isn't in San Francisco. It's because I managed it. I created an industrial company in France, and it's near Lyon in France. Creating an industrial project in France is possible. We have the necessary ecosystem, necessary industry that allows you to create this kind of company. This afternoon, I'd like to take a little bit of time to explain the metamorphosis and the journey that the industrial project has been on. And if I create some new vocations amongst some of you, well, I'd be delighted about that. My project started very simply. I had a discussion with some friends. They talked about the problems. They were talking about storing energy in microcircuits. In 50 years, the size of processors has reduced by 1,000. Energy consumption has increased, but we continue to use button batteries all this time to store all this energy. And people kept saying that these buttons were useless, they were dreadful. You need to put them in by hand, you can't weld them, then power enough. Button batteries aren't rechargeable, you have to recover them at the end of their lives. They need to be recycled. In France, only 30% of button batteries that are used actually go in the recycling circuit in France. So Fabien, my friend, said, if you manage to create micro batteries, it's really easy to use. If you manage to create that you can put up automatically and weld into any electronic cars, that would be great. If that can be done so that there's no environmental impact, if they can be used for quite elaborate tasks, then that would be wonderful. Well, there I've met the challenge, and that's where the ITEN adventure started. This micro battery now exists. It's a few millimeters in size. At Dardy, we have a manufacturing site which is starting up. We're also investing in the industrial site. The aim is by 2026 to create 150 million components per year. Of course, we're talking here of a global market. Every time that you have an electronic circuit, potentially there's a micro battery that could be used there. And we're talking about 10 billion components used annually. What's a micro battery used for? As I was saying, you'll find them in all electronic circuits. They can be used for saving memory. They can also be used to put energy in particular folders for particular logistics, geolocation information. We also find there are many different applications, medical applications. They can be used for new surgical tools. You can use them for implantations, for neurostimulators. And they can be used for connected lenses. As you can see, there's a wide field of potential uses for these components. And currently, there are lots of applications that can be made possible through this component. Every day, I'm stupefied to see the creativity that's there and the fact that there's such a need for this product. Metamorphosis. Well, what lessons have I drawn from this entrepreneurial adventure? The first thing I've learned is competence is key. Before you get started in an entrepreneurial project, and particularly a technological one, a focused industrial project, you need to really focus on your competence. It was my competence. I've always tried to be a sponge and to absorb a lot of information about technology. I spend many evenings reading about patents. To begin with, I thought that was normal behavior, but obviously not everybody does this kind of thing. Then I also learn from other people's competence. I always surrounded myself with good people. ITEN, we manufacture our own materials for storing energy. We manufacture our electrodes. We develop machines for creating these electrodes ourselves, and these machines, they didn't exist. We've also developed all the technology for packaging. In order to do that, we've conceived and developed skills amongst us to allow us to do all of these things. The second lesson, after competences, skills, you need to be opinionated. When you're starting out with a startup project, you shouldn't let go. You'll come up against difficulties every day. It doesn't bother me. So I am by nature. I've always been like that. I'm talking about my project with you today, but tomorrow, you can imagine, tomorrow I'll be back in my factory, tomorrow back in there with my colleagues, and I'll be there helping solve the problems. This being opinionated, well, it's something I observed in my teachers when I was very young. I wanted to be an automotive engineer back then. Some of my primary school teachers pushed me to become an engineer, and I'd like to thank them for that today. And that's how I came to encounter industry. I was told by one of my first bosses, it's not good enough to just have ideas, you need to be able to implement them as well. That's always resonated with me. I started my career and I finished with a PhD. This is what I've done. You started just with a PhD, but I'm expecting a lot more of you, I was told. My last teaching is to really assume or absorb. Once you develop your competences and you've been pushed in the back, you need to launch yourself. I really waited a long time. I've always had this flame within me, like electrical energy. As you've understood, this electrical energy is really this thread that's run through my presentation. Thank you.